when you turn the motorcycle on, I'm not going to completely turn it on, but you know what I'm talking about. You'll notice right here that it automatically defaults into standard mode. So here's your mode switch, and then all you have to do is you're just going to pull that over, or push that over, however you want to do that. And when I do that, you'll see it goes to A mode. Do it again, it cycles to B mode. One more time, it cycles to standard mode. Then what happens is, so you're riding in A mode, you stop, get off, all that good stuff, get back on, and you'll see that it defaults back into standard mode. So then you'd have to come back over here and then redo that as well. So that kind of gives you an idea of how to cycle through those 3 modes.
There's 3 types of modes that this motorcycle can be put in. The standard mode, it is the default mode that every time you turn the motorcycle off and turn it back on, it's going to be in standard mode. And I guess it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you a little bit of power, but it'll also give you that freedom to have that throttle roll back without it flinging you off the motorcycle. Standard mode is what I rode the motorcycle in during break-in. That's what the dealership recommended to do. That's what I did. I will tell you, when I first got this 2014 R1, after about 3-4 months, I got really disappointed with it, and I couldn't get that power. And what I was looking for, that feeling you get whenever you go down that first big drop on a roller coaster and you get that queasy feeling. I was looking for that same experience whenever you accelerate, and I just wasn't really getting that in standard mode. And believe it or not, the other day I was riding with a buddy of mine. I clicked that bad boy over into A mode, and oh my gosh, I don't know what the A stands for, but I call it the aggressive mode, awesome mode. But what it does is it puts the power down to the ground, and it'll give you almost everything this thing's got, and it's awesome. Now let's talk about some of the advantages of A mode. Is obviously it's a lot more fun to ride because it gives you all that power. But one of the disadvantages is that if you barely, and I'll give you an example here, I'm talking about a millimeter or 2 rolling that throttle, it will go. It has a very sensitive throttle response in A mode, which means if you're riding on a long trip and you want to kind of sit up and do like a one-arm, stance or whatever you want to call that, you do not want to be riding in A mode, because if you barely just twitch that throttle like that, I mean, it'll buck, it'll go. Where in standard mode, it gives you a little bit of that throttle freedom, I guess is what you could call it, where you just roll on that throttle and it's not going to be as jerky or so to, have that high throttle response. One of the other advantages of A mode is that I guess it gives you that low to medium range torque. I wouldn't suggest riding in A mode on a long trip. If you're going maybe from Austin to Dallas or Dallas to Houston, depending on where you live. I think A mode's more of like if you're in the low to mid range or going on a short trip and you want to have a little fun, that's probably what it's best for. I've never really talked to anybody that's said one or the other, so I'm just making my conclusions from what I've read on the internet, what I've read in the manual. So talking about, again, I guess the major disadvantage of A mode would be just the fact that it's just so jerky, it's so choppy. I mean, it's just like you barely roll on that throttle. But then again, that could be an advantage depending on, how aggressive you want to ride and what exactly your application is. So let's talk about B mode. B mode is the exact opposite of A mode. B mode is what I would consider putting the motorcycle in if conditions were bad, weather conditions or riding conditions. From what I've read and from what I've experienced, B mode has less of a throttle response. It has a lot more freedom to it, whereas if you roll on the throttle a little bit, it's not going to take off. I think it decreases some of the power to the, the mapping, I guess is what it's doing. It's changing all the maps, the electronic mapping that the motorcycle has. But I would use B mode like if it were raining, if it were hailing, if know, I was going on a short trip, and you know, the bumps were really bad because, I mean, I'll be honest with you, in A mode, you hit a bump and you're gonna feel, you may not see the miles per hour go up right then, but every bump that I hit, I'm feeling this motorcycle accelerate and decelerate just ever so slightly. And so B mode would be what I would suggest. See, I didn't get an opportunity to go from a 600 to B mode 1000. I went from a CBR 600, a crappy old stunt bike, to a GSXR 1000. I had a 2001 K1, man, and it was fast. It was total night and day, and it was no mode selection, so it always felt like I was already in A mode with that motorcycle. It took me a while to get used to that throttle response. So my suggestion would be, if this is your first 1000 and you're not sure and you don't have to break it in, start with B mode, work your way to standard mode, and then have some little fun every once in a while with your A mode. But hopefully this little video here is just a quick little video. I'm riding home. It's not a really fun ride other than it's just straight, bunch of traffic, bunch of idiots. And I hope that kind of explains a little bit what the difference between A mode, B mode, and standard mode is. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. If you have your own videos you'd like to share, please, by all means, share them with us. Don't forget to subscribe, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Be safe out there, because it's a crazy, crazy place if you don't already know.